The zoo was uh, real. It adjoined the botanical garden. The whole complex was the Richard Schultes Park with the botanical garden and then the zoo. It was beyond the Catholic Church where they'd been this morning or that morning, and going into East Richland and then turning north a little bit, but close enough to East Richland that that community particularly liked to almost thought of the park as theirs. So anyway, they got there and as expected, it was, I don't want to say crowded because it wasn't unpleasant. It was full, and this was only 1 week after the hottest day of the year. That's that day that Tatus did his flopping around on the back porch after getting sprayed. Uh, and But the weather was real nice, and people were out, and it was just as they expected. Now, Lance had only brought his cane. He hadn't brought and he only brought one cane, but he joked that he was beginning to feel sort of debonair walking along with a cane. And maybe it ought to be a fancier cane. Sort of like Maurice Chevalier, if you ever saw Gigi, the movie, walking along singing "Thank Heaven for Little Girls." what a different time that was, where a guy could sing a song like that, and there could even be a movie like Gigi. But anyway, he was at the time sort of like the epitome of debonair. This old guy with a French accent. Anyway, Lance had seen that, and he was joking about that. He's kind of like Maurice Chevalier. Uh, and they walked, and the people seemed happy. Maybe I told you that already. And the animals did too. It was just a very pleasant experience all around. And now there wasn't much of a place to sit down, so Lance kind of had to, well, I want to say tough it out in a way. There was no real chance to rest. Being debonair takes a little effort if you got a bad knee. But anyway, what they did was they found a tree, a shade tree that was on the far end of the zoo, and it was grassy under it, and they laid down in the grass and stared up through the branches of the tree. And Lance explained that that's called tracery, what you see up there, the way the light comes through the leaves. Elaine had noticed that before, but she didn't know there was a word for it. And he said, "Oh yeah, every tree has its own tracery. It's one of the things they taught us in botany class." So they laid there a while, and Lance he showed off something that he had found he was able to do since he was sleeping in a bed now, not on a couch. He could take he did this as his own therapy. He'd take his knee and bend it way up as far as he could. The good knee. He could go all the way up and touch his cheek. And now the bad knee, that hurt so bad to do it first, but he got so he could do the same on both sides, and that was kind of his, I guess you'd call it yoga maybe, but it was helping. It's probably one of the reasons he was getting so fast. And laying on his back there in the grass, he did that a little bit, but then he stopped and he said, "I'm not much of a talker, but there's something I need to say." Elaine thought, "Uh-oh, what's this?" And he said, kind of took a deep breath, and he said, I've only known you and your mother for 5 days, really, because the first day I wasn't even conscious. I've only been with you for 5 days, and yet you two have been so kind to me, and beyond that, you're just clearly such good people. You've taken me into your house, and not only that, you've shown me a whole new world here. You with all your friends, and you've made a big difference in my life, and I guess what I'm trying to say, and it's a little hard to explain, but I'm coming to love you too. And he said, I guess that's the word for it. You're not just, I have a mother and I have a sister who's just about your age and pretty just like you. And I love my mother and I love my sister dearly. And so in a way, your Gma, your grandma, has been like a mother, and you're like a sister. But it's stronger than that. I just sort of feel like I have to say something about it, because it's really, I feel it strongly, and I wanted to say, maybe I should have just kept quiet, but the short and the long of it is that I love you too. But I don't know how to love you too. I've even thought of that reminded me of a song, a really old song that I guess I just know because I'm a Catholic and churchgoer. There was a Broadway musical called Jesus Christ Superstar. Did you ever hear of it? And Elaine said no, she didn't think so. And Elaine said, well, do you know who Mary Magdalene is? And Elaine said, well, Mary was the mother of Jesus, right? You see, Elaine had not been brought up in a church, and they really weren't churchgoers, and she knew the obvious, and she said, and there's a lot of churches around named after Mary Magdalene, right? And Lance said, no, that's a different Mary. Mary Magdalene loved Jesus, but she didn't know how to love him, according to the Broadway musical. And she sang a song. You like music and you like songs. Maybe you should sometime listen to it. It's called I Don't Know How to Love Him. And I think you'd like it. And I know the way you are, if you hear it once and pay attention to it, you'll remember it forever. Well, that's sort of the way I feel. I don't know how to love you too, because I love you so strongly, and I've only known you for 5 days. When you were hurt by what that gross guy at the moot point did, I mean, you were hurt, and I was hurt. I felt that hurt. I felt like I'm going to go kill that guy. Of course, I'm injured, but anyway, it hit me deeply. So I don't know. I like I said, I'm not much of a talker, but I really felt like I had to say something. And something else. This is maybe asking too much. They were learners. Can I hold your hand? Well, Elaine, she blushed bright red and her heart jumped a beat and stuff, and she didn't know what to do. And I mean, he obviously wasn't smooth about it, but she gave him her hand, and they lay there for a while holding hands and not saying anything more. And actually, from that point on, Lance had gotten it off his mind, and when they were alone, walking or going places, they usually did hold hands from that point on.